Hello, everybody. World Class Wizard here with more insights into the true nature of the cosmos. You know, I'm going to depart from my usual methods in this video. I'm going to speak extemporaneously. I'm not going to write things out in advance. And I'm just going to ramble a little bit on this one. I have noticed a very alarming trend in the world today of everybody being incredibly pessimistic and doomsayers, the end is near and all that crap. And I got to tell you, the last time we went through this was in the 1960s, at the dawn of the nuclear age. And everybody was saying, woe is me, we're going to destroy ourselves and civilization is going to collapse. It's going to happen any day now. And everybody was preparing for it. And a lot of people were sincerely hoping it would happen. So then we could rebuild and get things right. Now, that was utterly and complete bullshit then. And this new incarnation of the gloom and doom crowd is utter and complete bullshit now. Okay? Stop being so pessimistic. Stop wanting the end to come. It's not coming. All right? It's not coming unless it comes by accident, like an asteroid strike, a huge electromagnetic pulse from the sun, something like that, a global pandemic. These things could happen. They might happen. But there's no reason to suppose they will happen. Now, let me tell you something. You do actually, or we humans together, actually do influence how reality is shaped, or at least the parts of it that we humans have control over. Okay? If everybody in the United States, or a majority of people in the United States, actually sincerely believed that the stock market would completely crash and burn by noon tomorrow, if a majority of investors in the stock market believed it would crash completely by noon tomorrow, it would happen. It's called self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's because your beliefs dictate your behavior. And if a majority of shareholders in the stock market believed the stock market were going to crash at noon tomorrow, how would that alter their behavior? Well, they'd be selling all their stocks. And if a majority of people in the stock market tried to sell all their stocks between now and noon tomorrow, guess what? The stock market would utterly and completely crash by noon tomorrow. Whether their original thoughts were justified or not, they would actually cause it to happen. Now, United States currency is not going to collapse. All right? And people talk about, well, when the United States can't afford to pay the military and the police, then everything's going to fall apart. That's also bullshit. The government has stockpiled literally millions and millions of MREs, meals ready to eat, with a shelf life of 50 years. So the military and the police are always going to get food to feed their family at the very least. So the military and the police are not going to go away. The dollar is not going to collapse. We live in a world where the value of money is determined by guns and tanks and bombs. And we've got way the hell and gone more than anyone else. All right? The next 20 nations behind us, the next 20 nations below us, combined are weaker than our military. All right? The next 20 nations together could not defeat us. In a world where money is backed by guns, our money is not going to become worthless. All right? And I'll grant you, the Republicans really screwed up the economy during the 8 years they had it. They put us, doubled our debt. They said things like deficits don't matter. George Bush and Cheney both said that. And that's because when you put those people up in Washington, they don't do a damn thing they tell you they're going to do. But seriously, before the Republicans came in, we had a surplus on our yearly expenses, and they were projecting that if we could hold things like that for 20, 25 years, the debt would be paid off. And what happens? Physical conservatives who told us they would guard our money and guard our finances went into Washington, invaded the wrong countries, created totally unnecessary wars, and spent trillions of dollars on credit to create the enormous problem we have now. And then they get back in power after a brief Democratic time of rule, and they come back, and suddenly, the deficit and the debt are the most pressing, world-shattering threats to the United States ever created, when they caused it. All right? Now, make no mistake, these so-called physical conservatives, they put on an act to get elected, and then they go up there and they spend like drunken sailors. All right? And then we have a backlash. And the party stands up and says, okay, we're going to blame the Democrats, number one. We're going to blame the Democrats. But number two, we're going to get really, really serious about this thing and prevent anything at all from happening in Washington while we scream, this has to be taken care of. Again, that's an act. All right? They're putting on a show to get reelected. And the Democrats do the same damn thing time and time again. The currency is not going to collapse because every other economy in the world is dependent on it today. Now, that's going to change in the future. In the future, you're going to have the BRICS group is going to offer an alternative to the dollar. And they're just getting started with that now. So 25, 30 years down the road, there may be enough countries in this world going their way to actually have some threat to our currency. But today, there is no possibility. And I can't emphasize this enough. It is utterly and completely impossible for the currency of the United States to become utterly valueless. We can have a Great Depression. Oh, yes, we can have a Great Depression where 40% of the people are really suffering, and the other 60% will hardly notice. Because that's what happened in the last Depression, We had unemployment above 25%. 40% of the people were hurting and hurting horribly. But the other 60%, it was business as usual. They hardly noticed it, all right? And that was the Great Depression. So there is not going to be any economic collapse. They're printing too much money, but they're not printing it that fast, and they're not that stupid. There's still plenty of time to get it under control if we send statesmen to Washington. We've got to stop sending politicians. All right, we're sending politicians and only politicians to Washington. They put on a great act for us. They put on a great show. They tell us all the wonderful things they're going to do. And when they get elected and they get to Washington, they forget about you. And they forget about the promises they made. And they do any damn thing they please up there, right? But they're not stupid enough to bring about a collapse, okay? And another thing, they are not stupid enough to try to rule the American people by force. They're not going to declare martial law and try to have a true totalitarian state, because Americans have guns. In fact, Americans' guns have guns. Private Americans own tanks, for crying out loud. There are private militias from one end of this nation to the other. So if the government actually tried to become a true tyranny, the people would rise up and devour it. And I don't give a damn if they've got nukes. They can't use them, all right? They absolutely cannot use them, and a weapon that cannot be used is not a weapon. Doesn't matter if they've got tanks and helicopters and aircraft, superior aircraft, because they won't be fighting a conventional war. If the American people ever declare war on the government, their military will do them no good whatsoever, because we're talking about an insurgency. We're talking about people who will drive you to work in the morning, and then that night they put on the black silk pajamas and sneak into your home and slit your throat, all right? It will be a covert insurgency like the Viet Cong in Vietnam. And we had a hell of a time with them, didn't we? Lawrence of Arabia said that if 2% of a population were totally fanatically dedicated to the overthrow of a government, that government would fall, all right? So make no mistake, if a majority of the American people ever got truly fighting mad, ever decided that there's no longer any hope of improving the system within the present confines of law, the government wouldn't stand a chance against us. And anybody who claims otherwise simply is ignorant of the art of war. You cannot destroy an insurgency because you don't know who the bloody insurgents are. The police chief of that small town might be the local cell leader, all right? If you anger the American people enough, they will rise up and hang you. So what they do is they put on a show. They pretend they're trying to do what we want them to do. They tell us they're going to do what we want them to do, and then they get up there and they do the exact opposite in many cases. And the Republicans have been responsible for shitloads of our debt. They have been horribly physically irresponsible, and they've got no business trying to lay that on the Democrats alone, although the Democrats are equally guilty, and they do the same damn thing. They make their promises, they go to Washington, and then they forget about their promises, advance their career, they make their backdoor deals with the military-industrial complex, which in turn is owned by the elites and the 1 and 2 percenters, which actually own and operate this country, which is actually a sheeple ranch. You are livestock today, but they've had to engineer the society in such a way that they've given you the power to change it. They're simply relying on the fact that they can keep us scared to death of the terrorists. It used to be the communists, all right? In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that was the boogeyman they used to keep us scared to death. Today, it's the terrorists, because they had to find something new after communism fell worldwide. They had to find a new boogeyman. And today, it's the terrorists, okay? Now, let me point something out. 9/11 was a true tragedy. 3,000 Americans died that day. Yes, it was a tragedy, and in addition to that, we lost two of our most magnificent works of architecture and 3,000 lives. Yes, that happened, and that was a tragedy. But it's not a reason to change our whole way of life. It was no reason to have the Patriot Act, which is an abomination against the Constitution, and we all ought to be screaming to have it repealed. But they've got us so scared, you see. A majority of people think they need to trade their liberty for security. And what did Benjamin Franklin say? Those who would trade liberty for security shall have neither. Okay? But I'd like to point out that in the years since 9/11, each and every year in this country, 40,000 Americans are killed by motor vehicles. Every single year, 40,000 Americans are killed by motor vehicles. Are we scared shitless and witless of motor vehicles? Is anybody suggesting that we need to abolish motor vehicles? No, no. Life is full of risks, okay? Life is not safe. And brave people do what they need to do without being afraid of the consequences, all right? So they've turned us into a nation of cowards, basically. We're willing to put up with any kind of TSA harassment to feel safe. And by the way, that doesn't make you safe. So we have several problems here. We have massive cowardice. People who are willing to put up with any indignity, any abuse of our liberties, so long as we can feel a little safer. And it doesn't make us safer. It does not. Your odds of dying in a motor vehicle accident are 15 times your odds of dying in a terrorist attack. So what's the big deal? What's all this much ado about nothing? We had things in place before 911 that if the guards had been properly screened and vetted, if they had actually studied their manuals and actually went by the book, 911 could not have happened. We don't need all this extra bullshit, all right? What we need to do is get some guts, develop some courage, and say, look, what you've done, Washington, is give the terrorists the victory. They are victorious over us. You have given away our way of life. You have taken away our liberties. There's no longer even habeas corpus, for God's sake, in this country. And that was established about 1250, I think, by the Magna Carta in Great Britain at the time. A tradition of hundreds of years, a key cornerstone to our justice system, the right of habeas corpus. Basically, it means produce the body. You can't carry people off in the night and make them disappear. You have to allow them to communicate with other people. You have to allow them access to lawyers. No. The Congress has declared American territory to be part of the battlefield now. So even though you are an American citizen on American soil, they can totally and completely ignore the Constitution and make you disappear in the middle of the night, okay? And if they want you badly enough, they don't have to jump through any hoops. Just have the police officer plant a little cocaine in your trunk at a routine traffic stop, because that's all the war on drugs has been good for. It's given the government the ability to take anybody down they want simply by planting a little drugs on them. But they've taken that so much farther with the Patriot Act. They have literally given away our way of life. This is no longer America. It's certainly no longer the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's the land of the enslaved and the home of the cowardly. And they've got us shooting at each other. They've taken our vision, our wisdom away from them, and they've got us facing each other down, fighting each other, shooting at each other, when they in Washington are the real problem. And we still have, all right, we still have a system where we can change things, all right? If enough people get out and vote, and refuse to vote for any mainstream candidate, refuse to vote for any incumbent, but rather just vote your conscience. Write in the person you want to be up there. People are always complaining and whining. They don't give us any alternatives. It's always a matter of choosing the lesser of two evils because of the two-party system. But what they've caused us to forget is that we can write in anybody we want in any office, in any political office. We can write it on the ballot, the full legal name, the date of birth, the town or city of birth, and if that person gets enough votes, he's in. We have the right to write in candidates, and we should be doing that. Okay? So there's no reason for us to all just say, "Oh my God, it's over. Oh my God, it's over. They've taken away all our rights. Oh, whatever shall we do?" Well, you get some backbone and you stand up to the bastards in the next election. That's what you do. Now, on another note, okay, uh, I was talking about pessimism and gloom and doom and the belief the world is about to end. There isn't going to be a nuclear war unless it happens by accident. Computers can malfunction, and you can see 100 incoming missiles, and they're not really there. So somebody pushes the button on the real missiles. It can only happen by accident, and everybody has known this since the 1960s. So they've been building in greater and greater safeguards, such that now today, such an accident is virtually impossible. We are not going to have a global thermonuclear war. The currency is not going to collapse because people are forced to take it at the point of a gun, and we have a damn sight more guns than anyone else. All right? So forget about this damn foolish notion that the currency is going to collapse. It's not going to happen. Okay? The evil ones, many people call them the evil ones, some people call them the black hats, some people call them the elites. It's the owners of all these sheeple ranches we call nations, is what we're referring to. These people are on the retreat. All right? The last time they tried to have a false flag operation, I think that was the Ebola scare, the people didn't buy it. People didn't buy it. It's getting harder and harder to put things over on the people because now we have something called the internet. Okay? And the internet allows everybody all over the world to compare notes. All right? And we see that we're all facing the same problems. We all have the same low quality politicians. And the word is spreading that the people really are powerful. And it's always been said that the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, if that's true, the keyboard is mightier than nukes, okay? The people have no idea the kind of power they actually have. And all they have to do is wake up to it, grab it, and use it. The world is not coming to an end unless an asteroid strikes us, okay? There isn't going to be any global collapse. And all this bullshit is doing is building up a negative mental wave all around the world on the internet. And if enough people can be convinced that the world is going to end next year, that we're going to have some kind of conflagration that will destroy us all, if you can convince a majority of people this is the case, it will happen. Everybody will change their behavior in a way that will encourage it to happen. It will become a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like the stock market crash, that the hypothetical stock market crash I mentioned earlier. All right? The power of negative thinking is what will destroy the planet if humans get destroyed. Other than the wildly, lottery ticket of getting hit by an asteroid or something like that. But if you people don't stop with this bullshit about the end is just around the corner, currency's going to collapse, and they're going to take all our guns, and oh, by the way, that brings up another subject. I think guns are wonderful. I think guns are a great check on the power of government. They're a great way to defend yourself. I am 100% staunch Second Amendment rights advocate, and I think if everybody had a gun, we'd have much less crime in this country. when someone was thinking about whether or not to whip out his gun and shoot somebody, he would realize there were a dozen people around him that also had guns that might shoot him. All right? So I think guns are a great check on the power of government, a great check on the power of criminals. But stop this bullshit of crying that they're going to take your guns away. Number one, if the government tried to take Americans' guns away, they'd have an armed rebellion on their hands. It's not going to happen that way. But let me say, even if they could conceivably take everybody's guns away, there are literally thousands of weapons that could be used as an alternative, and all you have to do is walk into the local hardware store and then the local grocery store and put things together in a certain way, and you have alternatives to guns. And you have alternatives that the powers that be would like a lot less than guns, okay? They would be far more frightened by anything the people would whip up, by anything the people would jerry-rig, than they are of guns. And they know that, all right? That's why they're not pushing, and they won't push, to try to actually confiscate our guns, because they know if they succeeded, first of all, they know they can't succeed because they'll be shot. But if they did succeed in taking our guns away, they would be facing much worse stuff, okay? Much worse. The American people are very clever, very adaptive, very innovative, and they would just create things that are a lot worse than guns. So you anti-gun people out there, unless you want someone to, cover you in acid or maybe set you on fire, you should probably be thankful we have guns. And I know it's no fun to be shot, but I'd much rather be shot than set on fire, all right, or blown up. So remember, the devil you know might not be as bad as the devil you create if you destroy the devil you know. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. This is running a little bit long, but I did have someone request that I spend a little more time on the matter of weapons. All you have to do is study history. Throughout history, humans have created thousands upon thousands of different kinds of weapons, catapults, and all of these weapons, a bow and arrow or a spear, can still kill a modern man. All right? So stop worrying about weapons. If you're worried about weapons, study up on them. Learn how to build catapults, which can be just as devastating as artillery pieces. Learn how to jerry-rig weapons. Learn how to, just learn about all the enormous variety in weapons that the human race has created throughout history. And you will discover that there's more than one way to skin a cat. All right? You don't have to shoot people to stop them from killing you. There are other ways to deal with them. Okay? And I'm not going to talk about specific weapons design. I'm not going to tell anybody how to make weapons, because there are a lot of nutcases out there who would misuse that knowledge. But anybody who wishes to, we now have the internet. Get on there. You can look up anything you want. And if there were a collapse, I assure you, people are going to clean out the grocery stores. They're going to take all the food and medical supplies and things like that. But they'll leave behind most of the hardware, most of the things you would need to make weapons. So don't worry about that. The important thing, what I want to leave you with is, get happy. The bad guys are being defeated, all right? They are being frustrated at every turn at everything they try to do, all right? They are trying to take away our privacy. They're being frustrated in that by new forms of cryptology, all right? Encryption. They are being frustrated, and they are also being exposed by internal whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, who is a true patriot and should be given the Medal of Freedom for exposing the criminal activities of our government. But you see, this taking away of privacy is a two-edged sword. All right, the activities of the evil people in the world are being exposed. All right, their privacy is being taken away as well, and whistleblowers are telling people about it, and then it speeds at the speed of light around the world, where everyone on the internet can hear it and know it. Okay, so the thing that's ultimately going to defeat the evil sheeple herders, the owners of these sheeple ranches, is the internet. And it's very ironic because the internet was a very elaborate trap which the good people of the world set for them. You see, the internet was sold to the powers that be as a way to make trillions and trillions of dollars in new profit. A global marketplace happening at the speed of light. How could any evil bastard who only cares about exploiting the sheeple and taking their money, how could he turn down such an opportunity? So they created the internet, put it in place so they could make their money. And what they did not realize was it's also a global phone system. People from all over the world are talking, comparing notes, uncovering their bullshit, and fighting their bullshit. And people like me can make videos like this. All right? So I want to leave you with saying this. Don't accept the bullshit people who say everything's about to fall apart. Don't believe that. Everything's about to get one whole hell of a lot better because the bad guys are in retreat. All right? And they bought 1.7 billion bullets because they're scared shitless of us. All right? They are making desperation moves. Look all around you. You can see how scared and desperate the powers that be are getting. And we are on the verge of a truly world-changing events. Okay? We are going to have a much better world in the next few years. And the United States isn't going to collapse. We're going to frack this nation from one end to the other, get so much natural gas, we're going to become energy exporters. We're going to mine the asteroid belts and open up space. I mean, the best days of America are just around the corner. And if we can manage to keep a positive attitude and act like we believe the best days are just around the corner, that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. We can send a positive mental wave circling the earth around the internet until a majority of human beings see things positively and act accordingly. They act like we have a future. If you act like we have a future and you make investments like you don't think things are going to crash, everything will be beautiful. We are at the dawn of a new golden age if we simply acknowledge it and act like we believe it. Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I know this video will disappoint some of my followers. I know it will really, a lot of people are going to love it. A lot of people are going to hate it. And frankly, I believe it's the truth and nothing but the truth. So anybody that doesn't like it, well, you can feel free not to like it. But I hope a lot of people out there are going to wake up and start acting optimistically and start looking at the future with new hope and new joy in their hearts, because things are going to get much, much better in the very near future if we only believe they are and act accordingly. So that's what I'll leave you with this time. The power of positive thinking. If you believe the world is going to go down the toilet any day now, if enough people believe that, a majority of the human race believes that, it will. But the good news is, if a majority of the human race believes we're going to solve these problems, we're going to conquer these problems, and we're going to have a better world, a much better world, that will also come true. And it's up to you which side you're going to come down on. Are you going to try to do your best to preserve the world? Or are you going to be one of these assholes that sets back and says, our destruction is inevitable and I can't wait. Oh joy, oh boy. As soon as everything falls apart, we can start building things back the right way. Well, we didn't get it right the first time, probably won't get it right the second time, and if everything does fall apart, your life will be miserable compared to what it is now. I don't care how much prepping you've done. Okay, I apologize for going on so. I normally like to keep my videos down to about 20 minutes, but it's been a while since I made a video, and I've had a lot of people, asking, come on, come out with the next one, come out with the next one. So here it is. Basically, my State of the World address and my suggestion as to how it can be fixed, and my suggestion that it is getting fixed, and that things are really improving. And they are. They really are. You have to dig deep. You have to look close to see the signs, but things really are getting better. So until next time, folks, keep a good attitude. Try to make the world a better place. Don't just whine about how bad it is. Do meaningful things to try to make the world a better place. You know, the elites wanted to turn water into the blue gold, a new big money maker. They were going to charge everybody worldwide out the wazoo for water. Water. On a water planet, where this planet is covered 75% or so, close to that, in water. We live on a water planet, and the elites hatched a plan to try to make water look scarce, drinking water, potable water, and turn it into blue gold. Well, some scientists got together and invented air wells. They condense water right out of the atmosphere, okay? They do it very cheaply, very efficiently. All you need is some solar panels to run an air well that'll provide your home with water. That's how the evil ones are being defeated, okay? It's one person at a time doing their part. People who invent things that make their strategies obsolete. Anyway, until next time, may Cosmos bless and keep you and give you a good attitude that we can use to generate a worldwide mental wave of optimism, because I guarantee you that will work.